I've known him for many years. I've watched him in action. You look at his background, he's one of us. 13 years at Procter & Gamble, which trains people, as we all know, just in a very unique way and a great culture. He then fell back in love with his family business and went back into the family business for a number of years. And then he became one of us real players in the technology industry. He came in to be one of the key leaders with a technology startup that then did an IPO, went public, and then got acquired by one of the major cloud players. You watch what he's done and then becoming elected to the U.S. House of Representatives and then to the Senate. And his career has been filled with many accomplishments. But that is what you'd normally read about a resume and Steve's background. Let me tell you what I value most and lessons learned from Steve over the years. First, he's an amazing family man. His wife, Cindy, and he have been married for 36 years. They have 4 kids. Many of us enjoy the outdoors a great deal. He's an avid fisherman and hunter. And he really cares tremendously about the environment and has done leadership in many ways on that. But what I enjoy most is how he brings together the capability to have a vision, to break it down into strategy on what you have to do to implement that vision, then the execution pieces, and to get the results. I watched very closely how he ran and was the key lead for the Republican Senate group on the last election and picking up 4 seats. He did that not in a traditional way. He started with a vision of where it would go. He got all sides from his party and independents on board. He outlined the execution that needed to be done, and then he resulted in the number of pickups, which was extremely unusual in our politics. He is the complete package. You look at it. He really understands government. He really understands business. He understands family. He's a 5th-generation Montanian in terms of the direction, and he's remarkably candid and honest. I literally would trust him with my life. Let me introduce Senator Steve Daines to come up on stage. Bobby Thompson, please join us from Visa in terms of doing this session. Steve, thank you very much.
Incredibly gracious, sir. Senator, thank you so much for being with us. And what a gracious introduction, John. I want to associate myself with his remarks. Well done. Senator, thank you. You are such a longtime friend and supporter of the U.S. India Strategic Partnership Forum, and we're grateful to have you back once again this year. Thank you. Maybe I might just begin with a high-level question in terms of what's top of mind for you right now. There's so much going on domestically, globally. You travel the world. I'm just curious, what's top of mind in terms of your priorities?
Right. Besides our 7 grandchildren, I'll go to answer the question. 2 things. Domestically, certainly, we've got this big, beautiful bill in front of us that we've got to get this passed. It's a $4.5 trillion tax increase if Congress doesn't act. Second, I think it's one of the most important things we can do in terms of global competitiveness. You ask, when you develop strategies and action plans, what do we have to do to be more competitive? Well, let's have the right tax code that incentivizes investment in capital and R&D. And that's something we hope to do in the Senate, is to take those provisions. I'd love to make them permanent. Think of CapEx and R&D, permanence, immediate expensing. And that would be a tremendous stimulus to the economy and making the right choice in terms of investment for the long haul in R&D and competitiveness. On the international front, I just came back late, in fact, Saturday night, from the Caucasus. So I was in Azerbaijan, I was in Georgia, I was in Armenia. There is great opportunity and optimism at the moment of perhaps bringing Azerbaijan and Armenia together with a peace agreement. Of course, if you know the history of that part of the world, it's been rife with civil war between Azerbaijan and Armenia, and met with President Aliyev there in Baku on Thursday, and by opening up that middle corridor that opens up Central Asia, which I think is one of the most geopolitically misunderstood and underappreciated parts of the world. The 5 stands, we probably ought to, instead of call it the C5, probably ought to bring Azerbaijan and then call it the C6. But that would unlock, certainly, think of the energy in Turkmenistan, the 4th largest reserves of natural gas in the world are in Turkmenistan, just across the Caspian Sea from Azerbaijan. So there's optimism at the moment. And they love America. They want to work with this administration to get some kind of a peace deal. But what's also important is, of course, we're competing with the affections also of Russia and of China in that part of the world. They want this multi-vector diplomacy. They want to be better friends and close to the United States. We don't always make it that easy for them. I was the first U.S. Senator in Azerbaijan in 7 years in terms of a CODEL mission. I was the first senator into Tajikistan and Turkmenistan in 13 years when we went there in November. And so a little bit can go a long ways. As Woody Allen said, 90% of life is showing up. We need to be showing up in these parts of the world because they are ready to come our way.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your leadership across Asia. You're such an expert in that field. Maybe Senator, turning a little bit to India, and Visa has been in India since 1981. We issued the first credit card there and are committed to the growth of the economy. There's so much strategic alignment between India and the United States right now. And we'd love your perspective on where we are in the relationship and then opportunities to grow it in the years ahead.
Well, when I think about India, and my India mentor here is John Chambers, by the way. I love just chatting with John about India, about geopolitics, thinking about China, thinking about India, thinking about the lineup around the world and where the opportunities are, where capital is going to go next. And I worked in China for 6 years when I worked for Procter & Gamble. I'm a chemical engineer by degree. P&G hired me in management, and I managed in the business there. But I was one of the pioneers in launching our American brands into China. We were based in Guangzhou for 6 years back in the 90s. In fact, left right after the Hong Kong handover in 1997. But when we step back and look at why is India important, I mean, there's this global strategic pivot going on that is increasingly moving away from China in terms of capital investment and looking at where's the next big opportunity, and it's India. And I think of it in terms of as was mentioned earlier, of course, the 2 largest, most popular countries in the world, India and China, and now India is slightly larger than China. But I look at the innovation ecosystem, and when you go to China, of course, I was just there in March. I met with Premier Li Qiang as well as Vice Premier He Lifeng, who's negotiating that hopefully a China trade deal in Geneva with Jameson Greer here a month or so ago. But I had the similar meetings in March. And you look at the innovation ecosystem in China, and it's remarkable. It's world-class. It's not only the quality that's coming out in the innovation, but it's also the scale. So now we step back and I think about China versus India. And when I take my smartphone around the world, when I go to China, I don't dare bring this phone into China. It's either left here in Washington or it's in an RFID bag secure, but I would not dare bring this phone into China. I go to India, happy to be telling my family, my grandkids, we're going to FaceTime Grandpa, talk to my wife, it's all on this phone. And that one illustration perhaps says a lot in terms of trust, because certainly when you think about capital, it's about where you can trust, where you have confidence, not only in literal return on capital, actually getting capital back out if you need it. But I look at what other country in the world besides China has the scale of STEM graduates. It's India. You think round numbers, round to the nearest million, if China's graduating about 4 million STEM grads a year, round numbers, India at about 3 million, the United States at roughly 1 million. So you take the US plus India, we're about equivalent with China as it relates to thinking the future of talent. And oh, by the way, just this last year, no surprise, Indian students now exceeded Chinese students in terms of coming into our universities. And so as you think about Wayne Gretzky's famous line, he was good because he skated to where the puck was headed. Where's the puck headed right now? Let's keep an eye on where the innovation ecosystem's headed and where we're going to have the talent and the trust. And to me, that's, you land over on India. And in my trips over to India, it reminds me a lot of how China felt back when I was there launching businesses 20 years ago. I see so much potential. And then you see the incredible quality of innovation coming out, solving difficult problems in so many areas. And I'm bullish about the long-term prospects.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Maybe just staying on the collaboration theme, there's so much happening between the two countries in terms of, the digital technology, the services, the advancements in artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and the like. And as India becomes more digital, they're able to uplift their economy. They get the benefits of that support. Just curious from your perspective, how do you see the digital agenda, technology agenda between the two countries? And what are the areas for collaboration to really strengthen even further the bilateral economic relationship?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, there's you start getting into the digital economy and thinking about where we're headed. AI was mentioned. I like that Modi said it was America and India. That's something I'll take away among many things. But you come back to something as a fundamental piece here. When I chat with the CEOs of the great innovation companies, maybe you think about Google, or you think about Microsoft or AWS. Our son works for AWS. We have a son who's a double E and he works for AWS, and I keep an eye on what's going on there. Fascinated by the growth of that business. But the first conversation we're having now is about energy. It used to be about constraint in talent. That still is a problem. But now the constraint's energy. And my trips I've had over to India and conversations with leadership there about having a coherent energy policy that is not limiting their ability, India's ability, to continue to truly develop an all-of-the-above energy portfolio. As we know, you cannot be competitive in the medium and even in the long term in this global economy without having strong baseload energy, strong supplies. I fully support intermittent source of energy, but until we crack the code on storage, indeed it'll still continue to be an intermittent source of energy. We've got to have baseload power. And so that's a fundamental part there. China's getting that part right, by the way. And we've got to make sure India gets that part right. And that's where some of the collaboration can occur, where we can help back and forth in terms of make sure we got best-in-class technologies and so forth to maximize energy output for India. But second, I just look at the raw talent, and the other comment was made earlier around you go to our best tech companies here in America. These are Indian Americans. I mean, this is the best talent. It's an Indian American that saved my father's life. My father turns 86 on June 5th. It's an Indian American doctor, M.D. Anderson, that saved my father's life because of an immunotherapy when he contracted cancer. I mean, we're forever indebted. I've never seen a more gentle-hearted, kind-hearted, brilliant physician. So it's the whole package, brilliant and bedside manner. And he gives mom and dad his own personal cell phone. They text him and so forth. And so you think about back to this idea of trust and character. It matters. Yeah. And when you think with the long haul of capital investment, it's going to go where you can trust. Because that's going to be an important part of return on investment.
That's great. Maybe just one quick final question for you, Senator, which is, for all of us in the room here committed to really working on the bilateral relationship, what advice do you have for us to continue to improve it, to make it even stronger as we go forward?
Yeah, well, I mean, here's an example in this room, and nothing beats getting, frankly, more members of Congress over to India and spending time, and then when our friends from India come to the United States, I think that a relationship part is really important. But to get members of Congress over to India and make sure you expose them to the world-class innovation going on, whether it's in the e-finance side of it, whether it's on AI, whether it's on just the future, certainly on biotechnology. What you want to have is U.S. senators and members of Congress coming away saying, that's world class, and India's on the move. And I think that sometimes I think folks in this city who may not have spent time around some of these places like India, they have preconceived notions around what it is. In reality, is much more rich in the sense of the world-class capabilities that India has relates to innovation.
Yeah, that's great. Senator, thank you very much for your strong leadership and for being here. We so appreciate it.
Thank you.